Unit 4. So Unit 4 opens up with noun suffix pronouns. These are suffixes that you can add to nouns, and all they do is they make the meaning like some sort of ownership, where it can be like my, his, you male, you female, the typical subjects that we've been talking about. They own that thing. So like bete is my house, bete is you male's house, beit-ish is you female's house. I'm gonna skip this respectful tense. Beit-tu is his house, or the house if you remember definite suffix pronouns from last section. Beit-wa is her house. Beit-achin is our house. Beit-achuhu is y'all's house. And then Beit-acho is their house. So you can basically just throw these on the end of words that end in consonants. For like vowel ending words, it'd be like mekinaye is my car. Mekina, mekinash. Skipping this one. Mekino, I think it's how you pronounce third person masculine, his, but my pronunciation is pretty poor, so you might want to get confirmation for that. Mekinawa, mekinao achin, mekinachuhu, mekinaacho. And mekina is just an example of a word that ends with a vowel. So those aren't too bad. It's just, memorize these and then slap them onto the end of nouns. And like always, you can check on here. Gwendinyaye would be like my friend, versus Gwendinya, which is just friend. So 4.2 talks about how to say have and have not. There's the word alle, which there is allu, which is the same sort of meaning as alle, but it's for plural things. So like if you're talking about there's multiple of something, you would use allu. Yellum means that there is not something. It can also mean no. And then yellum is like allu, where you use it for plural situations. So this is all trying to explain sort of the logic behind how the words were developed, but I just think it's better to just memorize what the words are. This is trying to say that there are verb suffix pronouns attached to the ends of the words, and that changes their meanings from like alle, which is there is, or if you add this end verb suffix pronoun, it means I have. Alle means that you have. Alish means you female have. Allo, which I think this is pronounced, it means he has. Alat, she has. Alin, we have. Alachuhu, you all have. This is supposed to be plural. And then alacho, they have. And then you do the same thing with the plural ones, which I'm going to skip because it's not commonly used as much, but it's the same idea. And you can always have someone sound these out for you if you really want. These are also really important to memorize. They don't have the exact same system of where you just slap the verb suffix pronoun onto the end of the word. You put it right before the M of yellum, which means like there is not. So yellinim is I don't have, yellihim, you male don't have, yellishim, you female don't have. Skipping the respectful tense. Yelluwim is he doesn't have, and yallatim is she doesn't have. Yellinim is we don't have, yallachuhum, y'all don't have. This is supposed to be plural again. Yallachoim is they don't have. So sometimes there is a difference between he and it. So like yellum by itself would mean pretending yellum is in this box, means that it's not there. And then yellowim is a different word because it has this W added to it, and it means he doesn't have. And then the same sort of logic is applied to the plural versions of those words. Feminine definite suffixes. So definite suffix is just a fancy word for saying the something. And we learned about how to do it in a masculine sense last time, which is the normal way. And then there are 3 ways to make nouns into feminine definite suffixes, which is by adding this wa suffix, yit-tu, or it's it-tu after consonants and yit-tu after vowels, or yitwa, which is itwa after consonants and yitwa after vowels. This will sort of make the noun into a feminine definite suffix. So I think with examples it might help better. So tamari by itself means student. You don't know if it's a boy student or girl student. If you say tamario, which I think is how this is supposed to be pronounced with this W, it sounds more like a O or like a woo type of thing from how I understand it. So tamari woo would be the boy student. And because of that suffix, you know that we're talking about a male student. Tamari wa, tamari yitu, or tamari yitwa, which again is using any of these 3 feminine definite suffixes, will make it the girl student. We now know that the student that we're talking about is a female student. Astamari by itself means teacher. Astamariu, I think is how this is pronounced, would imply that this is a male teacher. And then of course there's Astamariwa, Astamariyitu, and Astamariyitwa to be able to say the lady teacher. What I was saying earlier is that nouns without the definite suffixes don't show gender. Like tamari by itself is just student, and this can either be a boy or a girl student. And then when you have these definite suffixes attached, you can imply the gender of whatever noun you're talking about. The other way you can do it is by using verb endings at the end of words. So if we say turu tamari, it's a good student. But when we say no, we know that we're talking about a male student because no is a to be verb for he is. No can also mean it is. So like if you wanted to say turu mekina no, like it is a good car, you would also use no. But because we know we're talking about a student, which can be either male or female, in this situation we know that it's implying that it's a male student. So turu tamari no is he is a good student. The reason it's underlying a here is because there's no definite suffix used. So it's not the good student is a boy or something. It's just a good student as versus to saying the good student. Turu tamari nech or not. These are the to be verbs for she is something. So turu tamari, and then we know that it's nech or not, is that we're talking about she. So she is a good student. And there's just a small little comment saying that the most commonly used definite suffix is awa. Yeah, sorry I didn't click to this slide here, but basically everything I said is just here, but a little bit simplified. Definite suffixes on modifiers. So modifiers are basically just adjectives. They come right before the noun that they're modifying. So like mesaf is book. Mesafu is the book. But when you have like some sort of modifier coming before any noun, essentially, the definite suffix gets put onto the modifier. So tinish by itself means small. Because it's modifying book here, and we want to say the small book, then the part, which is this small u suffix, is getting put onto tinish because it's modifying book. So tinishu misaf, the small book. And here are like other examples of that I think are pretty helpful. So we're talking about so, which just means like a man, and we're modifying it by saying that he's a good man, which is dena. Dena is good. But we want to say the good man, it'd be denao. So the good man. Tinish misaf, small book. So this is the same modification as the one up here, but we're not saying the small book. We're just saying it's a small book, so we don't have to worry about adding any definite suffix onto the modifier in this case. So you can just say tinish misaf, which is a small book. And then allo, I don't know if you remember from up here, it means he has, and it's based off of the word ale for there is. So we're saying denaso, because again this has the definite suffix on it. The good man, small book, he has. The good man has a small book. Denawa is using the feminine definite suffix. So the good woman, which is seit, tinish masaf, and then alat is she has. So the good woman has a small book. Konjo yitu, konjo means like beautiful. Yitu is the feminine definite suffix. Seit just means woman. Andamisaf is like saying like one book or a book. Alat. So the pretty girl has a book. And just for clarification, I think the book is actually pretty smart for mentioning this. Like if you use one of the possessive pronouns that we talked about way up here on the noun, it doesn't change the fact that if it's being modified by something, that the modifier is going to have the definite suffix. So tinishu is the small, mesaf is book, mesafe is like you male, like your book, like you male, this is your book. Small book, like I don't know how to make it, it's supposed to be like emphasizing that it's this specific book. Izi is here, and then Allah is like it is here, like it is there. So your small book is here, and this is talking to a male for your, because it ends with an H. If it ended with an SH, it'd be talking to a female, so it'd be like your female small book is here. Getting close to the end, so this end is something that we talked about in the channel intro, where if you attach this end onto certain nouns, you now understand that it's the object of a sentence. So this group 1 and group 2 is kind of silly in my opinion, but it's supposed to be showing that in group 1, these are situations where you use the end, and that's how you help, emphasize that this is specifically a direct object. Whereas in group 2, these are just nouns that are not necessarily receiving an action. So like mesaf is book, och is plural. I don't know if you remember that from earlier chapter, but mesaf och makes it books. And then achuhu is another suffix, which is the possessive one for y'all. So this is saying like y'all's books. And then with this n at the end of it, we now know that it's, the object of some sort of verb. And that verb is kefetu, which is a command for open. We haven't gone over how to say commands, so it's kind of weird that the book is using this example, but mesafochachuhun, y'all's books, open them. So I just wanted to come back and clarify, because I think it can be kind of confusing to see two different suffixes being used at the same time. The och suffix makes things plural, and that will always come before the noun suffix pronouns, which indicate ownership. So if you had beit is just house by itself. Beit och is houses. Then after that, you would put the noun suffix pronoun. So like beit och ish is your female's houses. Beit och u, his houses. Beit och wa, her houses. Beit och Jin, which is noun suffix pronoun for we, would mean our houses, and you can just keep going from there. Yih is this. Yihin is making it this in sort of a specific way where we know it's the object of a verb. And then kal is word. Yidegmut. Yidegmut means repeat. This word, we've learned it before because it was part of the opening basic sentences for one of the chapters, but it is another command word, so I do think it's a little weird that they're using it here. In group 2 words, we're just gonna hear like these are like just things in general. It's not like a specific object being the recipient of a verb. It's just part of the sentence, if that makes sense. Like dena hotel lesayun yichalalu, like can you direct me to a good hotel? It's not like the good hotel, like this hotel is not receiving any action in a direct way. It's just part of the sentence. It's kind of tough for me to explain, but in general, I don't think it matters too much if you get these wrong sometimes, especially in like kind of weird situations. But the 4 situations of which you use this n are explained here. I think my explanation is a little simpler. So if the noun has a definite suffix and it's being referenced by a verb, then you put the n onto the end of it. So misaf is book, misafu is the book, and it's being the object of this verb, which is to open, kefetu. So now it's going to have an n put onto it. So we know that the book is receiving the action of being opened, so it's saying open the book. The other situation is if it's used on a noun with a noun suffix pronoun that's referenced by a verb. So, and this is the same example from the one above, so I won't explain it again. The other situation where it's used if it's used on a noun modified with a demonstrative pronoun. So they don't mention demonstrative pronouns until 14.1, but here they are. Demonstrative pronouns are, I don't really know how to describe them, but you kind of get the vibe of how they're categorized. It's like this, male or female, this one, and another way of saying male, this one, these, this, these, that one, those, that, those. Preposition ones, which, you know, we'll cover this when we get to this unit. But using any of these words with a noun that is being acted on by a verb would trigger the n ending rule for it to be a direct object of the sentence. And then the last rule is actually pretty simple. It's if you're using something with a proper name, independent pronouns, like the name of a country or place or a person. So the examples are like Gion Hotelin Yasayun. So Gion Hotel is just like the name of the hotel, and because it's being the object of the sentence for this instruction to show me, so this is another command word that we haven't really gone over, so it's probably not making a lot of sense, but that is why the hotel here, which has this specific name, is getting the n attached. Kebeda is a name. Kebeden means like this Kebeda guy is being the object of the sentence. Yaukalu is they know, so they know Kebeda, and because, you know, the object of this verb is Kebeda, it's going to get the n. Using the polite tense for like you, if you're talking to someone with respect, and then n attached to, you know, that they're the object of the sentence. Aukalo is I know you, and aukalo is a weird one because this word is in the imperfective tense, but it kind of implies in this current moment that I know them, which I think I mentioned this in a previous unit, that sometimes imperfective words are used as if they're in the present tense. And mawek, which is to know, and the conjugations in the imperfective, which are sort of future tense, are those type of words where you can say like, I will know something, or I know in this current moment. Depending on the context, this word can have either of those two meanings. Ba Bertabia is train station, and then Yasayun is another command word which we haven't exactly gone over yet, but show me the train station, show me the railroad station. So I thought I wrote this down actually, but this is an important note. If the direct object has a modifier, then that modifier will take on the n. So kal is word, yihin is modifying kal because it means this, and so it's kind of specifying that this specific word. And because of that, that's why yihin ends up with the direct object suffix n and not the word kal, which is word, which is actually, you know, more so the direct object of the verb. The modifier for the actual object of the sentence is going to pick up the n. It's kind of confusing. It just takes some practice, and I wouldn't stress it too much because I get this wrong all the time and people are still able to understand most of what I'm saying. It is sometimes important because, like I mentioned in the channel intro, that n can help differentiate between the subject of a sentence and the object of a sentence. So in those situations, it's pretty important to get right. But most of the other time, if you are basically talking about something and it's going to be affected by a verb, just throw an n onto the end of it and you'll probably be fine. So last part of the textbook is these prepositions. So it talks about the two prepositions. One is this be prefix, which can either be attached to the word themselves. This is saying it's inseparable from the word, but then sometimes it's used as a preposition that is separate from the word. So be marinya or be amarinya are the same thing. People will say both. And the reason this becomes ba marinya is because this preposition is affected by the vowel combination rules that were talked about in Unit 3.3. So you can always go back to that section or that video to get a refresher on that. But I wouldn't stress it too much. Like if you say ba amarinya anyway, you'll be correct because it's going to sound like two separate words and it also will mean like inamaric. Anyway, this be word has multiple meanings, which makes it pretty confusing. It can mean to, by, in, at, or on around something. To me, it even kind of means using something. And then there's another preposition called beste, and luckily this one's a little more simple. It's just involved in directional communication. So I think with examples it might help make more sense. Be is being attached to taxi. So using a taxi or by taxi, mehid is to go, and nichelalu is like, in this case they're talking to someone with respect, but this would also mean like they can. So using a taxi to go, they can, or if you're talking to someone respectful, you can go by taxi. Yihin neged is this thing. Yih is supposed to be this. Yih looks pretty similar to this word, yihin, but the reason this yihin has an N at the end of it is because it's modifying the direct object of a sentence. So this thing, by a marinya, be a marinya, ba marinya is like using a marinya or by a marinya. Min is what? And then yibelal is like it is called. This is an exception word, which is kind of weird, but anytime you want to ask what something means, you can just say like min yibelal, and you'll do great with that. So how do you say this in Amharic? And then the American embassy, I don't think we've learned about this preposition, which is this Y from like yeah, so just ignore that. American embassy, you can just translate it like that. Beste is a directional word. N is to the right, and then like iwo is supposed to be a suffix, like a noun suffix pronoun for respectful. So we come back up here, and when you're talking to someone respectfully, you'll add this onto the end of the noun that you're talking about. So in this situation, it's trying to say like toward right, and it's your right for you respectful. So like towards your right, and then no means it is or he is. In this case, we know that we're not talking about like a guy, we're talking about a directional situation. The American embassy is towards your right in a respectful sense. So here it's just making some comments about how be is used before consonants. Be, like just the B itself, is used nouns that begin with a vowel, like amarinya begins with a vowel, so the E from be is just removed into bamarinya. Or you can keep it as well and treat it like it's two separate words, like they're showing here. And then it's supposed to be beste before consonants, best before vowels. And again, it's just like a directional word where it can mean like to the right, to the left, to the north, to the south. Of course, there are great pronunciation drills to use at the end of the chapter, great substitution drills, great correlation drills, the question and answer section. And I know I'm saying this at the end of the chapter, but it's always great to read through the basic sentences that open up in the chapter to try and pick up some catchphrases and words to use. And a lot of those things that you pick up in this section, like here, yasayun, which they haven't really explained how to say it, but they tell you the meaning here, it was used. So you can pick up a lot of great words and catchphrases that will be used throughout the upcoming chapter and then chapters that come after. So that was Unit 4, and I'll see you guys in the next one.